So exactly 1 year ago, I had my first $10,000 month, and exactly 1 year later, I had my first 12.4K day. If we had to actually show receipts here, because we are gentlemen, we don't lie about those things, you can literally see here, direct bank transfer, 9.4K pound sale. So that is 12.4K dollars. Pounds, because obviously born and raised in London, so we have no other choice. But in this video, I'm going to be giving you guys a step-by-step breakdown on how I was actually able to achieve this and how you can actually implement these things into your own info business to get insane results. Okay, so let's actually get right into it. So the very first point of entry into the system is going to be the conscious diagnosis protocol. And so this is basically where we understand and pull deeply emotional and conscious triggers from our audience to actually build systems which naturally convert people into high-paying clients. Okay, and the reason why we do this is because we want to reverse engineer all of the deep, sophisticated psychological traumas, so the triggers, that our ICP has instead of creating assumptions on the market. And if we can frame our funnel alongside this, we eliminate the guess and hope trap. Guys, business is science. It's fucking science, right? And if you understand trauma, trauma is energy. And so consciousness, everything is consciousness. And this diagram specifically, the map of consciousness, maps it onto a logarithmic scale. And we know that every stage of consciousness has its own perception of reality, right? It has its own predominant emotional state, its own view of life, God view, process and paradigms, right? And so the question isn't, how do we get more leads? The question is, how do we actually drive people from a state of shame to a state of peace? Because we know people who are in the lower levels of consciousness literally cannot say yes to a high ticket offer. It's not because they literally can't and they don't want to say yes. It's because they literally don't have the energetic capacity to say yes or believe that it's possible to actually get good results, right? And so people who are in a state of acceptance, for example, okay, the sales call is literally just a formality, right? Because these people are generally in such a state where they do believe that they can get results, they do believe in taking action, and they actually see that it's your solution that they need to go from A to B, right? And so we need to understand these things so we can actually create marketing assets, a product, a fulfillment system that will actually guarantee people get results, right? Everything needs to be data-driven. And so how do we actually understand these psychological triggers, the decision-making triggers, the conversion triggers, right? Where we actually get this is going to be from our sales call recordings, our DM conversations, our IG story polls, our type form opt-ins, appointment setting conversations, client one-on-ones, and post-sale type forms. Okay, and so this is going to allow us, once we have these resources, to build marketing assets according to their energetic state and conscious assessment. And so the actual conscious data that we extract from these are going to be psychological triggers, conversion triggers, and decision-making triggers, okay? So we need to understand the pain points, okay? So what resistance are these guys actually facing? Their internal desires, so deep fears, identity wording, affirmations, emotional objections. And obviously, after I have this, I like to map everything on a conscious layer, right? So what log are they actually operating from? You need to know these things so you can have, very, very direct and exact messaging according to what problems they're facing. Right? If you know these guys better than they know themselves, and if you know their problems better than they know themselves, they're going to naturally assume that you have the solution that they need to actually solve that problem. Okay, so conversion triggers. So desired outcome, surface and deep. Why now? So this is data for urgency. Past failures, why they failed experiences, internal identity shift that they actually need, and a conscious layer once again. And so in decision-making triggers, right? So what are the inspirations? What actually got them into this? Like who inspired them into this, right? Where do they spend most of their time? So what platforms do they trust the most? So offers that they've actually tried in the past, and then conscious layer. So I'm actually going to go deep into the SOP and the document that I think that I give to all my clients to actually get all the data that we need, right? Before making content, before making systems. So we actually want to go in depth onto psychological triggers. So the surface level profile. So describing your ideal client in one sentence, right? What are the top 5 pain points that they're going to experience? Now, we're obviously going to be plugging everything from these into AI. So we're not actually going to be sitting down and, writing all these out, because we're actually going to look at exactly what they're saying. Like in the sales call, your clients will literally tell you what problems they're facing. And you can literally know, right, how they're feeling, depending on what words they're saying, depending on, their messaging, how they portray themselves, who they believe themselves to be, right? And so the AI is going to pretty much answer all this out for you, right? And so where do they see themselves at 2 a.m. when they can't sleep about their business? Like, what do they feel about themselves, right? What identity phrases do they use? The emotional objections, the specific language they use. What are they most embarrassed to admit about their current situation? And all those things, right? So conversion levers. So what are their desires and motivators? Okay. What is the surface level desired outcome? Their deep level desired outcome. Describe their life in detail, when the problem is actually solved, and all these things. Okay. Past failures, belief mapping. So what have they already tried in the past that hasn't worked? Why did each attempt fail? What features does the ideal solution need, right? What specifically would help them alleviate this pain that they're facing, the resistance that they're facing. So map everything on a conscious layer. You want to know exactly how they're feeling when they're actually speaking about their problems, right? Because this is when they're in a state of vulnerability. So you're going to know exactly how to word things, exactly how to speak to these people. So decision-making context, so understanding how your ICP makes buying decisions and what environment they're actually going to be operating in. So who do they follow and why? What does each creator represent to them energetically, right? What platforms do they trust the most for depth? So is it IG? Is it YouTube? Is it X? What other offers have they tried? What actually makes them trust someone enough to invest? What would make them immediately disqualify a coach or a program? Okay, and how do they typically consume content before making a buying decision? So map this onto a conscious layer once again, and then the belief audit, right? And so this is where we basically map out every false belief which is blocking the sale. And for each belief, you want to identify the conscious level that's actually generating it, what demolishes it, and what new belief you want to actually replace it with, right? This is going to be the backbone of our entire content strategy. This is going to help us with our email copy, our VSL, our appointment setting scripts, and literally everything. Okay, so I've actually written down 4 example, false beliefs. Okay, so more content equals more clients. Not necessarily. It's about intentional piece of content, which triggers a specific response. You can post as much content as you want, right? But if it's not specific to someone's problems, if it doesn't address a certain emotion that they're facing, it's not going to convert. And so you need a big following to charge premium. Obviously you don't. And so low close rate equals a sales problem. This is just as likely to be a content problem. These guys maybe aren't nurtured enough. They don't trust you enough. And so obviously when they get into the sales call, they're going to be having a crazy amount of objections, right? And so the right funnel equals everything works. So you can see, these are examples. I want you to have a minimum of 50 of these. And so once you have this, it literally becomes unlimited content problems because you've gotten these all from the resources, the sales calls, the appointment setting flow, conversations, the client one-on-ones. These guys are literally telling you what problems they're facing. And so the AI is literally going to map out everything based off your conversations with them. And so you want to obviously put as many sales call recordings as you can, as much data that you can collect, you need to pump it in, right? With the document. And so you want to also get their language bank, right? And so pain point phrases, exactly word for word, design outcome phrases, objections, word for word, like what are they literally saying in their objections, their identity phrases, words that trigger positive psychological responses, words that trigger negative psychological responses, okay? And so once you have all these things, right, once you have the document, once you have all the data, right, you're going to, and once you also have the map of consciousness, you're going to plug it all into AI, right? Sonnet 4.6 is good enough. You could do Opus 4.7 if you're bougie like that, but you really don't need to. Just pump it all into Claude. And Claude will literally fill out the document for you and it will give you literally all the data that you need, right? And what this is going to do and how we actually utilize this is it's going to help us with our top of the funnel content, right? We're going to know exactly what to say in our content, exactly what messaging to have, because we know how they're feeling. We know what problems they're facing, right? And so we can actually make these guys problem aware, build as much interest as we possibly need to. And so this is how we get high intent leads, how we get high quality leads. So our middle of the funnel sales assets. So we're going to be able to resonate with the audience and solve problems on a deep level, okay? And so VSL is literally going to nurture these guys to fucking oblivion, right? Because you know them better than they know themselves. And so they're going to assume that you have the solution they need because you know these guys so well. You literally know their problems on such a sophisticated level, right? It's going to help in our email copy, our post-booking and pre-call assets, because we're going to know what objections we're going to need to handle before the actual sales call. And so the sales call is going to become literally frictionless. And so the fulfillment is also going to be dialed in because you know exactly what you're going to need to do immediately after the sale to relieve any immediate doubts, right? Okay. Before you do this, everything else later becomes so hard, right? And this is literally like the most simple thing. It's going to probably take you like, I don't know how long, but obviously you guys are going to have lots of sales calls, lots of data and resources. Once you're able to plug it in and understand all the data on your ICP, you're going to be able to create an offer. You're going to be able to create a fulfillment system, content strategies, content assets that's literally going to hit every single angle, right, that you need to actually get these guys to buy. So this is a super important step that a lot of people are going to skip out on and actually be lazy on, but it's arguably what's going to help you not miss out on any sales, right? Like this is super crucial. So let's actually move on to the second point of the system. So actually building a 7-figure offer, a world-class offer. So we obviously understand our ideal prospects now. We have all the data that we need, literally everything, right? And so now we're actually going to build and position an offer uniquely within our market through a unique mechanism with all the data that we actually have. So everybody in info is obviously going to be selling the same thing. So systems, outcome. And so what works is already out there. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. So what you want to find what works, package it uniquely according to your own mechanisms. And once you actually have an offer that's a category of one, that is when you dominate, right? And so we don't want to actually copy and paste the same offer as everyone else in the industry. Build and scale info, make more money, make you richer. Clients, the same messaging as everyone else. No unique angle in the market. The only leverage you have in a space, in an industry with, however many competitors you have, is to be unique, right? Is to be yourself, is to be your own person, is to have your own offer, which is unique, right? And so we want to have our own unique angle within the market, create a scalable offer, have justified pricing psychology, and be able to actually take people along the map of consciousness and make them more aware, make them more solution aware. How do we actually take them into that state of peace where their product is so fucking good that the market has no choice but to reward them? Everything is consciousness. You want to always elevate consciousness. That's the entire point of your business, right? And so when people actually read your offer, they literally need to tap in to this, right? They need to see that after going through your offer, they're going to get to this insane state. They're going to get into their zone of genius. Like, this is how they need to feel. And so how do we actually build the offer? So let's actually get into that. So the very first thing that we do is we will audit your offer, right? And so most coaches already have something, especially if you're at like the 10 to 20K a month boundary. And so we don't innovate, right? Like, we're going to diagnose and enhance what you already have, because, you know, what you have is going to clearly be working already. We're going to make it that much better. And so we want to identify the buyer friction points. What objections are killing the sale? So after someone goes through your offer in the sales call, what is their immediate response to hearing it? Okay. And so where the offer actually feels generic, pricing and market positioning, whether it's missing a unique mechanism. And so the result of this is going to be, you're going to know exactly what's broken before even touching the system, before even touching your content, before touching all these things. Once the foundation is built, all the structure you build on top of it, right, is going to stay there, right? And so part B is the unique mechanism. So this is literally what's going to make you a category of one. So most coaches actually sell the same thing. It's the same outcome, the same promise, the same funnel, just a different face, right? And so the unique mechanism is the one thing that's going to make your system impossible to copy. And so for us, it's going to be the CSS, right? Where we have a conscious layer on every part of the system, right? You have scientific data, you have business principles, you have systems, you have inputs. And when you bundle them all together, right, like the data is just so strong that you're not hoping and guessing anything. Right, and so while every other system moves people through a funnel, my system moves people along up a conscious scale first. And so the funnel is just a vehicle. And when you frame it like this, everything just becomes bulletproof, right? Because you're using data, you're using emotions, you understand them on such a sophisticated level. So your assets are addressing literally every single point, right? And so when you have something like this, the calls literally become enrollment. Price resistance is going to disappear because your unique mechanism justifies it, right? And so the clients are literally going to arrive already sold. And this is where your offer becomes a category of one within your market, right? And so offer reconstruction. So obviously we're going to look at each step for this. So step one is defining the dream outcome. So you're going to look at the outcome you're going to give, you're promising, in what time frame, and then without the biggest pain. Okay, how do you reverse the resistance? So step two is perceived problems. So list out every single objection and solve it within the offer itself. Now, because we're smart individuals, we already did that with the AI. And so we have an unlimited list of objections, right, that our prospects are going to have. And we're going to have the offer actually solve it for us. Okay. So step three is the 5 core deliverables. So this is going to be part of the unique mechanism as well. So name, benefit, what it actually is, and you're going to make it sound as sexy as possible. That's the biggest point I want to make throughout the whole video. It needs to sound super nice, right? And so step 4 is going to be the 10x question. So what would you actually deliver if you had to 10x its current price? So if your offer is 5K and we had to make it 50K, let's just say, for argument's sake, what are the things that you would add to that 50K offer so that you can actually justify it? And you want to have like minimum of like 4 to 6. And once we actually have that, we're going to help you put it into the offer to make it that much sexier and that much better, right? And so you're going to do the reverse of that as well, the divide by 10 question. So if you had to divide your offer's price by 10, okay, what are the baseline things you would add? So for example, weekly coaching calls, video modules, this is going to be the bare minimum. And so once we have this base, right, everything we add on top of it is just going to be more value. Okay. And so now we're going to look at pricing architecture. So what is the value equation? The value equation is the dream outcome times by the perceived likelihood of success, all divided by the time delay x effort. And this is going to be the perceived value. People are fucking lazy. People are lazy. So the biggest rule with the offer, with the pricing, is how can we get the bottom, the time delay and effort, to be as low as we can possibly make it, right? And so this is when you actually look at the offer and where we could justify the price. So for example, people have a content problem. They're too lazy, right? Like ideation, scripting. And so we obviously have a system which gets them unlimited ideas. And so all they need to do is literally just record, right? And so when you have SOPs like this, you can actually justify the price. And so you need to get the time delay and the effort to be as low as you possibly can. And so your client can actually focus on the high leverage things without wasting any time, right? And so if your product can have that, you can actually justify higher prices. So the ROI pricing rule is going to be charging 1 to 3 months of client outcome. Your client should be earning, their investment halfway through the program minimum, right? Like that's like the bare minimum, okay? And so the payment plan architecture is you're going to have your PIF, which is your core price. And then if they're having a payment plan, you do PIF plus 15 to 20%. And you only want to present one option at a time. And so once you have this, once we do all these things, you have an offer with unique positioning, you have specific quantifiable outcomes, you have an offer that's specific to a unique segment within your market, and you have an offer which elevates consciousness. This is the most important thing, right? And so people don't buy coaching, they buy the system they believe will change their situation, right? Your offer needs to look sexy, bro. And so the first thing, obviously, just to go over everything once more, is we order the offer, okay? That's the first thing you need to do. Identify the existing mechanisms and bottlenecks, reframe and repackage with unique mechanism positioning, construct the actual world-class offer, create and justify new high-ticket pricing, so anywhere from 6K to 15K, and then we go straight into launch prep, okay, which is what we're going to focus on now. So the third point of entry into the system is going to be the conscious scale system. This is going to be the beefy part, okay? And so what this is it's a multi-layered conscious elevation journey that takes a cold prospect from unaware to enrolled without any hard selling, pressure, or chasing, right? It makes things so effortless, right? And so most funnels focus on traffic. The CSS focuses on conscious layer traffic, right? We talked about it earlier. How do we elevate consciousness? And so when someone arrives at a call where they're already elevated to the log of 350, 350 is the state of acceptance, right? The sale is made before you even speak. Okay, what is the CSS? So every prospect is operating at a specific energetic log, right? And so the emotional state determines what they can hear, what they'll believe, and what action that they're actually capable of taking. And so the CSS engineers every touch point, your content, your assets, your email copy, your pre-call sequence, your sales calls, to deliberately move people up the scale until they're ready to buy, okay? Okay, and so the old funnel thinking is going to be post content and just hope people buy from you, right? The generic VSL into a book call, and you're focusing on the volume of leads rather than quality and intent. You're handling objections live on the call, and you're going to have a closing rate of 20 to 30%, okay? And so the CSS engine is going to be every touch point that you have in the company is going to be intentional. Okay, you're going to be elevating consciousness at every point of your system, every point of the funnel, and you're going to be focusing on quality of buyer state, and the objections are already going to be handled before the call. Okay, so you're going to be focusing on enrolling these guys, not persuading them. Okay, when people arrive on the sales call, you want to genuinely be in a mind frame of whether you can genuinely help this person or not. You don't ever want to sell people. You want to frame it as you're diagnosing this person. Will your product genuinely help them, yes or no? And once you think and operate like this, because you would have put all the strategies and systems in place to handle the objections, to nurture these guys, you can actually focus on giving them the help that they need. And once you frame it like this, they're genuinely going to be grateful to you, right? Because you're not focusing on getting money. You're focusing on whether you can genuinely please the market. And that is when the market rewards you, okay? So stage one is generating high conscious leads, top of the funnel. So the only goal here is to pull the right people into the ecosystem and create a flicker of curiosity and nothing more, right? And so this is where we use organic short form content, so our IG Reels. And so this is where we pull intentional, broad TAM, so total addressable market, pattern interrupting hooks that meet prospects at a log of 20 to 100 and move them up, right? So the point of the top of the funnel is to get people who are here. So the people who are going to be here are probably going to be people who are at like the 10 to 20K a month boundary. They've obviously tried everything. They want to scale up, but they can't. They're stuck at this point, right? Because they're handling everything by themselves. They don't know how to, they don't have the exact systems and inputs they need to actually scale up. So you get these people who are in a state of shame, you resonate with them and you take them down. You want to elevate their consciousness, okay? And so paid systems, driving paid traffic directly into our nurture ecosystem once we've actually validated the organic, okay? And so stage two is going to be nurturing the prospects to a log of 250. 250 is a state of trust, okay? So middle of the funnel. And so this is where buyers are actually made. And so 80% of your conversions are going to be decided here before any sales conversion ever happens. And so you want to have a few things here. So problem solving long form YouTube content. We have three types of this. We have action based, so searchable evergreen. So this is going to be top of the funnel pull stuff, which could be here as well. And you have case study breakdown. So this is identity based proof. So no client is actually going to be needed, but you'll actually be breaking down the system which you use to actually take these people from A to B. Okay. So client interviews is going to be transformation, which is going to be stated in the first 30 seconds. So this is actually where you're going to be with them, maybe a Zoom call, maybe in person, and they're basically going to be explaining the entire thing on camera. So the second thing you're going to need for the nurturing is the evergreen VSL. So this is going to literally pre-sell the offer at a consciousness level, not just at a logical level. And so this is going to also handle the objections before the call. And so the prospects are going to arrive half sold. So you obviously have two types of VSLs. You have direct VSLs, you have indirect VSLs. Now, indirect VSLs is going to be a bit more lengthy. It's where you're genuinely trying to pull as much pain as you possibly can. Direct VSLs is where you're with more sophisticated buyers. And these guys already know everything. They know their state. They understand things. You don't want to bullshit them. right? Like they've already heard things over and over. And so you just literally tell them straightforward. The direct VSL is going to be way shorter. And so this is an example of a direct VSL where you're literally telling them exactly what you're doing, what results they can expect, etc., etc. And so the actual structure for that, you can actually take a screenshot of this, is the offer, headline, and hook, credibility, who this isn't for, who it's for, explain the mechanism, cost of not taking action. You can have more social proof right here, and then a CTA. Okay. And so IG stories is going to be daily micro elevations. Okay. So client wins, real moments. This is where you're obviously going to be showing your personality as well, showing people, you know, a bit more about yourself, right? Right. And so this is the thing, right? You don't just want to sell people on the program. You want to sell people on yourself as well. Show people how you are as a person. Okay. And so these real moments are obviously going to nurture people as well, make them trust you better. It's not just about the proof, the social proof. It's also about how you are as a person. And so this is a compounding trust builder. So now we go into stage 3, which is the booking. I'm going to go more in depth on this, on the final part of the system. Before we brief it right now, this is where most coaches lose the sale, and it's going to be between booking and the call. And so this stage is going to exist to close that gap. Okay. So someone books at a log of 250. Okay. So that's the state of trust. And then the sequence gets them to 310 to 350, right? So if we had to look here, 250 is the state of trust. After they've booked, which is going to be right here, you want to take them here before the actual sales call into a state of acceptance where they just know that it's your solution that they need to go from A to B. This is before the call even happens. Okay. And so how you're going to do this is a thank you page. So post booking, you're going to confirm the booking, set the frame for the call, and you're going to have a pre-call page. So this is where you're handling all the objections. You have case studies, and you have your email sequence. You have your SMS reminders. Okay, so your email sequence is going to be 4 emails using the exact language and emotional triggers from the ICP that we did earlier to make our email copy. And then SMS reminders is going to be actual human touch points, which keeps them above a 80% show rate. And so once we have this, once we've done the CSS and we have all this in place, the prospects are going to arrive in a state of acceptance. Everything has been handled. The sales call is literally just you diagnosing the problem and whether you can genuinely help them. Okay, and so objections handled before the call, you're going to have a show rate of 80% plus. Close rate of 60 to 70%. The call is going to be enrollment, not persuasion. Okay. And so when you engineer the consciousness of your prospect at every stage, selling becomes unnecessary. So now we're actually going to go deep into the post-booking process. Okay. So this is going to be the pre-enrollment indoctrination. Pretty flashy name. But basically most coaches book the call and go silent. Okay. And so the prospect goes cold. And by the time they actually pick up the phone or go into the sales call or whatever, they've actually forgotten why they even booked, right? And so they've talked themselves out of it, or they found an objection, right? Or they found someone else. And so the pre-enrollment indoctrination fixes this. It's the conscious engineering of everything that happens between the booking and the actual call. And is designed to take your prospect from a log of 250, so state of trust, to a log of 350, state of acceptance, before you even speak a single word. And so the reason why this phase exists is because the sale is not made on the call. Super crucial to understand this. It's made the hours and days before it. And so once someone actually books in, they're operating at a log of 250, okay? State of neutrality and the state of trust. So interested, but they're not committed. And so one distraction away from not actually showing up, right? And so your job is to actually move them along the log of 310 to 350, willingness and acceptance before the call starts. And at that level, there are no objections, no resistance. The call is enrollment, not persuasion. Guys, the sale doesn't happen on the sales call. The moment someone sees the very first piece of stimuli, which is going to be your top of the funnel content, is when the sale starts. It's at the top of the funnel. The sale starts at your content, not in the sales call, right? And so your content needs to be engineered in such a way where it's actually handling objections and doing all the things that it needs to do before the sales call is even taking place, right? And so the normal build-up after someone is actually booked in is the prospect is going to book a call. And so the confirmation email is going to be sent. There's going to be no human touch points, no belief shifting. The prospect goes cold because they're going to forget about the situation. And you're not handling those lost, doubts that they're going to have. Okay. And the show rate is going to be lower. So 40 to 60%. The closer is going to handle 10 plus objections live. Okay. That's a lot, bro. It's a lot of yapping. And so the close rate is obviously going to drop as well dramatically. And so the pre-enrollment sequence is going to be the prospect books and enters a conscious elevation journey, right? So every touch point is going to move them up the scale and get them to that state of acceptance, right? And so the objections are going to be dissolved before the call even happens. The prospect is going to arrive warm, believing, ready, and the show rate is going to be 80% because they're just going to want to talk to you. You're going to have 0 live objections. You're going to have a closing rate of 60 to 70%, and the call is going to feel like a conversation, not a pitch. You're genuinely trying to see if you can help them, okay? And so the reason why your show rate is so low is because your prospect is booked purely from curiosity and not conviction. Okay, and between booking and the call, life is going to happen. Something's going to happen, right? Like they're going to scroll, they're going to see a competitor, they're going to talk to a friend who's skeptical, they're going to talk themselves out of it. And so now you've left the most important window in the entire funnel completely empty, right? You're just hoping and guessing they're going to show up. And so the pre-enrollment sequence fills that window with intentional conscious elevation. So by the time they show up, they're already sold. So these are the 3 layers that we're actually going to go into. Okay, so layer 1 is the thank you for booking. Immediately after they've booked in, they're going to be sent to a thank you page, which is going to have a short VSL. Okay, and this is not going to be a generic confirmation. This is the very first touch point of the elevation, right? And so what it's going to cover, this short VSL immediately after booking, okay, it's going to confirm and celebrate the decision that they've just made, okay? And you're going to set the frame for the call, which is actually a diagnosis, not a pitch, right? You're not trying to sell anyone. You're trying to see if your solution will genuinely help them. So you're going to tell them exactly what to do next. So you're going to tell them to confirm the Zoom invitation in the Gmail. You're going to tell them to press yes. You're going to make them watch the pre-call video in full. And you're going to tell them to check their emails. Okay. And so this is where you begin the belief installation. Show them what's possible. Show them what they need to do. Show them the cost of inaction. Okay. And so this is where you also handle the very first wave of post-booking doubt before it sets in. Okay. You're not giving them time to think or have doubts, right? You're solving everything before they even get to it. And so layer 2 is the email sequence. So you're going to have 2 to 4 emails per day from booking to call day. And so each one has a specific job on the conscious scale. So email 1 is going to be objection handling. So you're going to be addressing the biggest fear they're going to have about showing up, and you're going to dissolve it with logic and proof. Okay. So email 2 is going to be testimonial and social proof. So building those, building as much trust as you can. So someone just like them who is in the same position and what happened when they actually showed up. So email 3 is going to be building the pain. So remind them why they actually booked. Okay, what happens if nothing changes in the next 6 months? The cost of inaction. Okay, so email 4 is going to be call day reminder. So frame the call, tell them exactly what to expect, remove the friction, give them reminders. I should have put in here that you're going to have a reminder for 24 hours, 4 hours before the call, 1 hour, 30 minutes, and then exactly before the call even happens. Now, exactly before the call happens, you want to send them the Zoom link on Gmail as well, obviously where they're going to get it, in SMS as well, and obviously on IG. Okay. So every email is written using the exact language and emotional triggers and pain points extracted from the ICP Conscious Diagnosis. So this is going to be from all of the data that we extracted at the very beginning, okay, which is going to help us with our copy. So layer 3 is going to be retargeting ads. So everyone who books a call gets added to a custom audience. So retargeting ads are going to run to them immediately. And what these ads are going to do is it's going to show social proof and client wins. It's going to handle common objections in short video format. It's going to keep you on top of their mind. Okay, it's going to build trust through repeated touch points across all these platforms. Okay, they see your emails, they see your ads, they see your content, and by the time they get onto call day, they feel like they already know you. If you have any questions regarding the system, or if you actually want me to implement this into your own company, into your own info business, just book in a call. I guarantee you it will be the highest leverage thing that you could ever do. Okay, worst case scenario, you leave with a lot of information and a lot of value. And that's it. You just walk away. Thank you for watching this video. If you have any suggestions or if you have any, video ideas or things that you want me to cover and problems you want me to solve for you, just let me know. Put in IG, DM me on IG, post a comment. I'll see you guys in the next video.